On this show, we have heard time and again that tech companies, especially in Vancouver, are facing a big employee retention challenge. Affordability issues have also forced organizations, even in other industries, to get creative with how they attract, engage, and retain their talent. We're going to have a look at how businesses can reduce employee turnover and keep their employees with them for our bi-weekly Management Matters segment with Mark Wardell. Mark is the president and founder at Wardell International. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
How expensive is it to have to deal with employee turnover and have to recruit, train, and ultimately send employees off?
So it's a hard formula to figure out, but studies show that it's up to 18 months of salary it can actually cost for a senior person to replace them, and up to 6 months for everybody else. And even if it was, let's say it's even half that, it's tons, right? Yeah. It's tons.
Plus, you can't really quantify institutional knowledge. Right?
It's disruptive. People have new ideas they bring to the company. They leave. Those ideas go away with them. There's just all kinds of reasons why employers want and need to keep employees longer. And by the way, it's both sides of the coin, because employees want to have jobs where they are valued and want to stay and want to grow as well, right? It's both sides of the coin, I think.
Yeah, there's value to consistency there. And I imagine too, and it again might be tough to quantify, but there's an impact on culture and morale there if you're seeing a lot of people sort of cycle through a company.
100%. I mean, I guess there's the entry level jobs. It's slightly different. Maybe somebody on a counter of a fast food store, but almost every other situation, it's way more valuable for people to stay. You get to know each other. You develop friendships, relationships. You love what you do. You get attracted to the mission of the company, and you're going somewhere. All that stuff gets disrupted and messed up when you.
And yet, the retention of an employee doesn't just simply involve perhaps some salary increases from time to time and that kind of thing. There is an investment that has to come in the individual too, in professional development.
Yeah, I think actually the most important factor in having long-term successful relationships with employees is hiring the right employees in the first place. So of course, there's all kinds of things you can and should do, and we can talk about it, to keep employees happy and motivated, and the investment in them to help them to have career paths and learn and grow as individuals. But you need to have the right people on the bus in the first place in order for that to be successful for everybody and everybody on the bus.
Otherwise, you can't either retain them, or you maybe don't want to retain them.
Maybe you don't want to retain them. Yeah,
they may outlive their usefulness.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So if that's the case, is it possible then to tell right from the start whether someone's likely to stay or leave?
First of all, really great hiring practices have a really great, thorough, comprehensive hiring practice. You've got at least 3 interviews in at least 3 different environments, at least 3 different people involved. I call that the 3x3 hiring method. So have a really robust hiring method, involve people in that process. And then it's all about the orientation. Like the first day that employee shows up for work, you have the opportunity to set the stage for how that relationship is going to go forward. And people mess that up all the time. They do a terrible job of it because they don't think through that experience. The employee shows up, they're excited to work. Somebody hands them a desk and a computer and says, I'll talk to you later, go for it. They feel they're confused. Maybe they get the sense that the company isn't entirely organized. But if you have, they show up, it's a nice clean desk. Maybe you've got some corporate swag sitting there for them, all nicely folded on the desk. You've got a schedule for the day of who they're going to meet, they're going to meet the CEO, they're going to meet other employees. Then you've got a plan that they can dig in and get a little bit of work done before the end of the day. Like they feel now this is an organized environment. Boy, they go home at night, they talk to their spouse, their friends, they say, wow, my first day was great. I'm really excited about this job, and things roll much, much better from there.
Yeah. Is it okay to assign work right away, to send the signal to a new employee that, look, we want you to be here for a long time, and today you're getting at it?
I think it's important that they actually do something useful absolutely day one. I mean, training is really, really important. But as part of the training, you need people to get something done the first day, because then they feel they accomplished something, and then they feel they've added value. People actually want to do a good work. People want to add value in their lives. That's why they took the job, not just for the paycheck, because there's 1,000 opportunities for a paycheck. You take a job so that you can do something that you feel good about and contribute in some way. So give them a chance to right off the bat.
What happens when the honeymoon phase wears off? So you have a great first impression, you're given work, you're contributing to the team, you feel like you've been onboarded successfully, and then you find yourself at the point where things aren't as new as they once were, you're in a routine. What then is it the role of senior management to ensure that employee is still engaged and still continuing to have good first impressions.
And so that's all about building a really great culture, right? Like, for example, one of our clients, Kins Farm Markets, longtime client, and they have an annual Chinese New Year celebration. They got like 1,000 employees now. Everybody shows up at the restaurant where one of the founders originally worked as a dishwasher before they started the company in order to get the company started when they first came to Canada. And so so everybody comes, they do prizes, they do karaoke sometimes, they sing, there's celebrations, there's awards, all these kind of things. And it develops this huge sort of almost like, it's like a giant family, and it's pretty awesome. And if you don't have a lot of money, there's other things you can do. Like I got a client that's a manufacturing business, smaller company. When they hit their numbers once a week, in this case, the owner's wife, she's a really great baker, and she actually bakes cinnamon buns. It costs them like $20. They bring a huge flat of cinnamon buns in when they hit the numbers, and everybody stops work at the end of the day early when they hit their numbers, and they all sit around and have cinnamon buns. It doesn't cost them much money. It's fun. They chat, they joke, they have a good time.
Isn't beer in the bathtub, right, though, a little bit more fun?
Or beer in the bathtub.
Beer in the bathtub, yeah. What responsibility, Mark, does an employee have, though, to make sure that he or she is retained?
Yeah. I think people have to remember, because we have a little bit of a culture sometimes going on now where people hop from business to business. And I've noticed that resumes are starting to be shorter and shorter in terms of the length of time that people often stay at jobs. And I worry about that because I understand why it might happen. But from an employer's perspective, you're always going to be, you can't help it. You're going to be looking at those numbers and you're going to be thinking, is this person going to stick around or are they not going to stick around based on their history? And I think it's really important for employees to understand the message that they're sending to the world and to the marketplace, that if you jump from job to job, you are negatively impacting your future. You just are. So you got a big responsibility to yourself and to the company you work for.
So does that mean that you also have to have this dialogue with your colleagues and those who you're working for in order to try to find a second and a third and a fourth wave of excitement, a passion about a job, rather than simply saying, it's getting kind of boring, I think I'm going to go?
Yeah, well, okay, so at Wardell, every once in a while, we have potlucks, for example. Everybody, takes turns. Everybody brings in a dish, and shut down on a Friday afternoon, have a potluck together, that kind of stuff. Everybody contributes, everybody chats, everybody supports each other, stuff like that, and that doesn't have to be run. In fact, it shouldn't be led by senior management. Like it should be people in the company taking initiatives to develop that kind of a culture for each other.
On the topic of the resume with the really short work stints.
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate for an employee to bring that up during an interview and say, you know what, this is why this is the case and this is what I'm looking for? Would that help the employee get a little bit further?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. Try to, yeah.
Say yes. Short answer. Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily need to hide away from that. But what about once you're hired and you're onboarded? How important is it to have communication pathways established so that employees can say, you know what, I'm not feeling engaged? Or an employer can maybe ask someone, you know what, we have these events coming up. How would you like to get more involved?
Right. So communication happens, if you think of an org chart, communications happen up an org chart, down an org chart, and sideways across an org chart. And it has to happen all three ways. So downwards, it's all about information and making sure that the staff is in the know. And that's one of the critical things, by the way, for keeping people long-term happy is that they have all the information. Because when they don't have information, what happens is the sideways, the water cooler communication starts to break down. And so people start to talk about, I wonder why that isn't happening or isn't happening, and they assume negative things about the company. So clear communication from top to the bottom and the bottom to the top is necessary for keeping long-term employees in a company.
What makes for a good performance review?
Well, I think honesty and two-way dialogue. Let people in advance of the performance review know what's happening, so that they can review both themselves and the company in advance. They get an agenda before they show up. Mm-hmm. Then they get together. You bring the same agenda that the manager has reviewed, and then together you talk about that, and you have open dialogue about what the employee is doing well, what they're not doing well, but also how the company could also improve.
And I guess in addition to that would come the piece of compensation. And maybe a company might not be in a position to bump someone's salary, but What are some options available?
Right. So you can get creative, right? Like we got a client, for example, that has a piece of software that they delivered to private golf courses. So what they've done is they've developed a relationship with a local golf course. Anybody that works there gets a free membership at one of the local golf courses. That's pretty cool, right? Another one of our clients, they when they finish a job, a big job like working on a bridge or some major job together, everybody gets a T-shirt. Right, and the T-shirt says, "Oh, I worked on the so-and-so project," and that sort of pulls everybody together. All kinds of little fun stuff. Doesn't have to cost money at all, and it pulls people together. It feels like little bonuses and benefits and things that don't really cost the company a lot of money. Or how about a local restaurant, for example? You got a small local restaurant up the road. You say, "Listen, I've got half a dozen people or 10 people working for me. How about if we make this our main restaurant? You give everybody that works for me a 10% discount." People will often go for stuff like that, and then it's a great little benefit. It didn't cost you anything.
Do you think that employees who share with the boss the idea that they might be looking around, that maybe they're unhappy, do you think it's possible to actually then retain them? Are they almost past that point? If they're prepared to tell you that maybe this isn't working out, that they are in fact done?
No, I don't think so. I think most of the time when people are done, you don't hear from them. So if you know in advance that there's a problem, I like to believe that they're reaching out. They're saying, putting up their hand and saying, please help me. There's something wrong here. There's something that's not a fit. Now, maybe they're not a fit for the company, but it also could be there's something wrong inside the company, some issue that needs to be resolved. And that's why one-on-one meetings are so critical, by the way, in a company. Never, ever stop having one-on-one meetings with your employees. Weekly, it's just one of the most important things you can do.
Is it fair for companies to expect to retain employees for, say, 10, 20, 30, 40 years in this day and age? Is that possible?
It's possible. It's all about, it's not likely, maybe, but it's very possible. It's all about establishing career paths, right? So when you have employees, you have to talk always about where they're going, not just salary, which is part of it, but it's where are they headed? How are they learning? How are they growing? And what are the opportunities for moving forward? I mean, the Kins example is a good example because we got lots of people that come in that are just stacking piles of fruit in a store, and over time have eventually made their way to actually running and managing an entire operation or entire store. So having those paths and opportunity and showing people that those paths are available, that's really that's a key to longevity and having people be excited about staying there over the long term.
And if it doesn't work out, is there a way to make sure that you have as good a goodbye as you did hello? Is that a business necessity, do you think?
Yeah. So we call these exit interviews, right? So we have a formal process for all of our clients. Whenever an employee, unless it's for really bad reasons, if they're leaving, you should always have an exit interview because it is the one opportunity that you have for that employee to be fully honest with you sometimes, right? And you're going to hear the bad stuff, and you got to have thick skin. You got to hear the bad stuff, sort through the other stuff, and take it to heart and try to make a change for next time around.
Yeah. And it's a small world. Sometimes
absolutely
your paths connect again, right?
They're very likely, yeah.
Yeah, or a career path option is not available at that time, but 5 years down the road, maybe if the rapport is still good,
come back.
You can welcome some of that.
Absolutely.
Mark, as always, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
That's Mark Wardell with our Management Matters segment with Mark Wardell, president and founder of Wardell International. You're listening to Business in Vancouver on Roundhouse Radio 98.3. I'm Haley Whitten.
I'm Kirk LaPointe. Stay with us.